Good afternoon and welcome to our content-based presentation. This presentation is actually for those learners that are following courses that are combined, and this presentation is covering all the 3 trimesters. Yes. First of all, let me say that the presentation does not mean a scope. It does not mean that we are giving you a scope. In fact, you need to study the whole study guide. We are only emphasizing certain important topics, maybe topics that you struggle with, or maybe those that we need to clarify certain concepts. Right, we start with characteristics of management. In your study guide, you will come across the topic which says characteristics of management. So you need to familiarize yourself and know which are the characteristics of management. It's very straightforward. And it's very important that I must remind you that learning outcomes in any module or in any study unit is of paramount importance, because the learning outcomes gives you the scope of what you need to know in that particular unit. I know that some students rely on internet, for example. They do research, but you must know that the content that you download from internet are so vast. So in that case, you will need to narrow it down according to the learning outcomes that are presented to you in your study guide. So I would recommend that the first step for you is to consult your study guide before you go on internet, because a study guide gives you already a scope of how far you should go when you tackle a certain topic. Now, after you have completed whatever unit that you are busy with, you must master all the learning outcomes in that unit. And as I said before, you must bear in mind that we are not allowed to give you a scope of work that is to be covered during examination. You need to study all the study units as guided by your study guide. So let me now highlight a few topics that you might find hard to answer, as well as look at some mistakes that certain students tend to do. All right, on the topic that deals with the difference between management and administration, here, because it's a comparison, I will need you to draw a table where you compare management and administration based on the following subtopics: the meaning of it, or in other words, the meaning of management and administration, the nature of management and administration, how they differ in terms of process, how they differ in terms of the functions, how they differ in terms of skills, how they differ in terms of influence, and how they differ in terms of level. That information is already done for you in the study guide. All you need is to study. And then we have also, again, the difference between management and administration, if we have to look at it from another perspective. Here we are comparing 2 important concepts: administration on my left-hand side, management on my right-hand side, and they are divided by this line that is running diagonally. This line is dividing administration and management. It's very important to interpret what the figure is saying. And on my right hand side, I have the three levels: the top level management, middle level management, and lower level management. Now when I look at the top level management, I see that this block, the block on top, the block on top on my left hand side is larger than the triangle here on my right hand side. So if I compare these two blocks, I have a bigger one and then a small one here under top level. So what it means is top level management, in terms of administration, it devotes more time to administration if I compare it to management. Look, management is only this amount of time that the top level is giving to management. But top level management is giving so much time to administration. So administration is receiving more time at the top level management compared to management. Let's go to the second one. The second one, if I look at this block compared to the other side of the diagonally dividing line, I see that both blocks are of the same size, which means that if you are operating at the middle level, say for example you are head of department, your time that you allocate to management is equal to the time you allocate to administration. Let us look now again to the lower level management. If you are at the lower level management, for example, you are a subject head or what we call a section leader, then you are more concerned with management than administration. It's completely the opposite of top level management. So the amount of time that the lower level management allocate, if I have to compare between management and administration, the amount of time that lower level management allocate to management is greater than the amount of time that the top level management is allocating, and the vice versa, while middle management is equal in all aspects. And that is what you need to clarify if you are presented with a graph or a table like this one. And then you look at the servant leadership compared to ineffective leadership. Servant leadership can take you out of the mess. Ineffective leadership draw you into a mud, for example, and many other comparisons that are listed there. And then you look at the code of ethics for school managers. There are certain code of ethics that are expected from school managers. And then we look at the myths around minority learners. There are certain perceptions that are specifically leveled for minority learners, or what we also know as at-risk learners. For example, the minority learners, a myth that is surrounding is that they will not learn anyway. It's a myth. And many other myths that are listed there. And then the national policy on HIV and AIDS. What does the national policy say on HIV and AIDS? In many aspects. And then rights and responsibility of teachers or learners. Many cases you are expected to list the rights of teachers, but also to match with the responsibilities assigned. The same also with the learners. And then the Maslow's theory of motivation. You remember the Maslow triangle of needs, where we have the lower needs, or which we call the physiological needs, And the pyramid goes up, and the top is self-actualization. So the lower needs, according to Maslow, must first of all be satisfied. And those are the needs at the lower table of the triangle. For example, hunger is a basic need. It's a lower need. So before you teach the child, you need to make sure that the child is not hungry. Otherwise, the teaching cannot take place because you did not satisfy the lower need, that is hunger. So this theory must be applied in context. It means, for example, in a classroom situation, what are you going to do if a child is hungry? What are you going to do if the physical facility, the classroom, is not conducive for learning? So those basics must first of all be satisfied before you can expect the child to learn. And then again, we talk about budgeting. There are certain ways of budgeting. There is what we call school-based budgeting. There is certain way how the expenditures can be categorized. So budgeting is a wide topic that you can study thoroughly. And then school maintenance, I don't think the word maintenance is correct spelled there, where you look at the safety surrounding the school, fencing the school and so on, where you look at the resources, how to look after resources and so on, and why it is very important to look at the resources. And also in terms of emergency evacuation, the emergency drills, in case of emergency, how should staff handle it, and how should the learners be equipped, the drilling and so on. Those are topics that you can explore under emergency evacuation topic. And then principle of total quality management. The word management is not correctly spelled. There you can have a discussion that surrounds TQM, or total quality management. In the study guide, it is compared to a house. And you know very well that a house has the foundation, which is the basis. In this case, they say the foundation is integrity and ethics. So in terms of management, managers must have integrity and ethics. So if you as a manager, you are not integral, you do not have integrity or ethics, then your management is shaky. It's not solid. And then it talks about the after the foundation, you have now the structure, or the building structure, which is leadership. So you as the manager, you must have leadership, and you cannot have leadership without being a team player or creating teamwork. And your house will also be very weak if there is no training that is provided throughout your leadership, throughout your management. There must be training. And finally, you must have recognition. So you must have rewards for your people as they achieve. You must celebrate success at the end of any project that you have achieved. So in a nutshell, that's what it means. And your house must also have cement. In terms of cement, we're talking communication. And you can see that everywhere, whether you are operating at the foundation level and you do not have communication with your people, then it's futile. There is nothing that you're doing. The same also at the building, or the entire building, you must have communication throughout. Even at the recognition level, you must have communication all over. So this is the explanation of those elements of TQM, Total Quality Management. The foundation, we said, the ethics, the integrity, and trust. So as a manager, it is expected from you that you must be ethical. You must mean what you say. You must be integral. That's integrity. So you must do things right, even though nobody is watching you. That's integrity. And then you must trust, and create trust in your people. Those are the very important foundation of any management. And then the building bricks. So a house must have bricks. And that comprise training. Training, when you are having training, it means you are putting brick by brick in your management. Teamwork. If you are fostering teamwork amongst your staff, you are laying brick one by one. Leadership. If you have sound leadership, you are laying bricks one by one. And then the binding cement throughout, whether you are at the foundation level, whether you are at the building bricks, or whether you are at the roof, you must communicate, you must talk, you must be transparent. That's communication. And the roof, that is recognition. So at the end of all these things, you must have a recognition platform. You must celebrate your success. So for example, you have impact upon a project of building a school fence, and you have achieved that. Then you call everyone that have contributed, private companies, your parents, your learners, your teachers, and you recognize, you have a program, you say thank you to the people that have made the project successful. That's recognition, and that's also part of management. And then there are three types of teams as adopted by the total quality management. Those one you will find it very much outlined under the topics total quality management. And then there is a gentleman with the name Frederick Taylor. He has a certain approach. Familiarize yourself with that approach to management. And then the cooperation between management and workers. Why is it important that there is a cooperation, that they work together, management and workers? There is a gentleman with the name Max Weber, and he is an expert in analyzing the characteristics of bureaucracies. So go and visit this gentleman in your study guide, and you will know what are the characteristics of bureaucracy. Rights and responsibility of teachers. As we know, teachers and learners have responsibility, and here you need to match the rights and responsibilities of teachers. The role of parents to ensure learners' achievements, and then the key factors regarding school culture. What are these factors that enhances, key factors that enhance school culture? And here we have Maslow's triangle of needs again. As I said, these must be learned in context. Physiological needs are the basic needs. A child must satisfy the basic needs before you go to other needs. Safety. The child must feel safe. And then the child belongs. So the social needs. Child must have friends. And esteem needs. A child must achieve, and those achievements must boost the child's needs. And then self-actualization, that is now when the child has achieved and would like to be recognized for that achievement. So that is the triangle of needs. Put it in context. Budgeting, we can talk about the vertical budget or horizontal budget. It is outlined in your study guide. And then communication styles, we have the assertive communication style. And there are also strategies that you can employ for developing assertive communication. What must you do in order to promote or in order to foster assertive communication? There are certain things that can trigger conflict. We call them conflict triggers. And how do you prevent these conflict triggers? Please see, and in your study guide you will find how to prevent conflict triggers, things that can create conflict. And then criticism on scientific management. There are certain criticisms that are leveled against scientific management, whether it is at the management level or at the workers level. Please familiarize yourself with that. And then comparison of leaders and managers. The word managers is spelled incorrectly. Certain comparisons like those, I will require you to draw a table where you have the subtopics, origin, formal rights, followers, functions, necessity, stability, mutual relationship. And then you compare them, leaders on one side, managers on one side. So in other words, when you look at the origin, what is the origin of leaders? When you look at managers, what is the origin of managers? What are the formal rights of leaders, and what are the rights of managers? Who are the followers of leaders, and in terms of managers, who are the followers? Functions. What are the functions of leaders, and in terms of managers, what are the functions of managers? Necessity. Why are leaders necessary, and why are managers necessary? In terms of stability, leaders, how stable are they, and managers, how stable are they? Mutual relationship. What is the mutual relationship that they have, the leaders, and what are the mutual relationships for managers? That's it. And then factors on which competence depends on. Here we talk about power versus authority. To give an example, one of the power is the referent power, and also other powers that are also outlined in your study guide. Changes at schools for the 21st century. Changes is very eminent at schools. Now, what are the changes that we expect for the 21st century? Very well explained. And the process of change in a school, what are the changes that we can follow? The key abilities of a quality manager. How will I know that this is a quality manager? So there are certain key abilities that are associated with a quality manager. And then what makes certain people act aggressively and others passively? I want you to interrogate that question and see what are the reasons for being aggressive or being passive. And then characteristics of art, very straightforward in your study guide. And then we look at the principal's responsibility for staff welfare, their responsibility for development, and the principal's responsibility for management. About the computer centers, there are certain tips how you can manage the computer centers. Familiarize yourself with those tips. And then the characteristics of gestalt or vision, new professionalism. See what is meant by the characteristics of the gestalt or the vision for new professionalism. And then the roles and responsibility of the head of department or HOD. There are various reasons or various responsibilities and roles that HODs can play, and that is divided in terms of curriculum and also other aspects. And then parental involvement. What are the benefits for learners for parental involvement, what are the benefits for parents themselves, and what are the benefits for teachers. Hygiene at school is also elaborated in your study guide. Bullying and other violence are very topical for schools. I want you to look at bullying and other types of violence. Water and management is very important. Sanitation and hygiene standards. How should we manage water and sanitation? And also what are the hygiene standards that are expected at school level. Steps to take in managing conflict. There are few steps that are given for you to take in order to manage conflict. We talk about the school-based budget, where the staff are involved. So in what way should the staff be involved in the school-based budget? And then various categories of expenditures. And then school facility maintenance. What are the benefits for school maintenance? That will bring us to the end of our presentation for a combined educational management subject. As I said, this is the only presentation that you will receive this year. So whatever examination that you are writing, whatever trimester, this presentation remains relevant. So every time you study, whether it is for the April examination or August examination or November examination, you will still use the same presentation to prepare yourself for the upcoming or for that examination. So I thank you very much, and I hope that you will study thoroughly and you will make success of your study. Thank you.